I'm Jason Hager, and this is Grayleaf Media, where impact-driven leaders use trust, clarity, and strategy to turn good work into sustainable growth. This is the Trust Wall series, an ongoing look at what trust is made of, how it breaks, and why strong brands build it deliberately. Your business has two kinds of elements: the ones that hold it up and the ones that just look good. Most people can't tell the difference, and they spend far too much time polishing the wrong things. Here's a question. What's actually holding up your business right now? Not what you think is important, not what you spend the most time on, not what looks the most impressive from the outside. What's actually bearing the weight? You probably already have some answers in mind. Your product, your systems, your team, your sales process, your customer relationships, your reputation. And you're probably right about some of those. But here's what I've noticed. Many business owners can't clearly identify which parts of their business are structural. The things that, if you removed them, everything would collapse. And which parts are decorative, the things that look good but don't actually hold any weight. So they spend too much time, energy, and money on things that don't matter while ignoring the things that do. They update their logo while their delivery model is broken. They obsess over their Instagram aesthetic while their unit economics don't work. They invest in a slick workspace while their customer journey is full of friction. And they wonder why the business feels unstable, why growth is so hard, why they're working all the time, but nothing feels certain. It's because they've been busy with decorative bricks where they really need load-bearing ones. This is Episode 7 of Grayleaf Media, Trust Walls Part 6, Load-Bearing versus Decorative. Today we're looking at how to identify what's actually holding up your business, how to separate core competency from marketing theater, and what happens when decorative elements become your whole structure. Because if you can't tell which bricks matter, you'll build something that looks impressive but fails under weight. Part 1. The Construction Principle. Let's start by continuing with the construction analogy because it makes this really clear. In any building, there are load-bearing walls and decorative walls. Load-bearing walls hold up the structure. They're part of the skeleton. They bear the weight of the floors above them, the roof, and everything. Remove a load-bearing wall without proper support, and the building collapses. Decorative walls divide space. They look good. They serve a purpose, but they don't hold up the building. You can remove them, move them, or change them without structural consequences. Both matter, but they matter differently. And here's the critical part. They often look the same from the outside. If you walk into a building, you can't always tell which walls are load-bearing and which ones are decorative just by looking at them. You have to understand the structure. You have to know how the building actually works. In business, the same principle applies. Some elements of your business are load-bearing. They're structural. They're what actually creates and delivers value. They generate revenue, retain customers, and enable operations. Mess with them carelessly, and everything falls apart. Other elements are decorative. They matter for perception, for experience, for optics. But they don't hold up the business. They are just the icing on the cake. They make things look good, feel good, and seem professional, but they're not actually bearing the weight and providing stability. And just like in construction, they often look the same from the outside. Your competitor's Instagram feed may look impressive. Well, so does yours. But one might be decorative, and the other might be their primary acquisition channel, load-bearing. Your website looks professional. Well, so does theirs. But yours might be decorative, while theirs is a critical conversion tool, load-bearing. The problem is that many leaders are making decisions without knowing which is which in their own business. They're treating decorative elements as if they're structural, and they're treating structural elements as if they're decorative. A company can rebuild the front of the house while the plumbing still leaks. Customers may notice the paint. They eventually notice the water. Imagine a company whose inbound leads are healthy, whose website converts, and whose brand presence keeps improving. But internally, fulfillment depends on too few people, too many workarounds, and decisions that only make sense because everyone is compensating manually. From the outside, growth looks possible. Inside, every new product, service, or customer increases strain. Sometimes, a business improves what customers can see before fixing what the business itself depends on. So how do you tell the difference? That's what we're here to talk about. Part 2, what's load-bearing in business? Let me give you a framework for identifying what's load-bearing in your business. Load-bearing elements are the things that, if removed or broken, would cause immediate structural failure. Not things would be harder, not it would be inconvenient. I mean structural failure, where the business stops working. Here are the most common load-bearing elements. First, your core value proposition. What problem do you solve? What transformation do you create? What's the result people are actually paying you for? This is load-bearing. If this breaks, if you stop solving the problem, or if the transformation stops happening, customers leave, revenue stops, and the business collapses. Second, your delivery model. How do you create and deliver that value? What's your system, your process, the mechanism that turns your promise into reality? This, too, is load-bearing. If your delivery model breaks, if you can't fulfill what you've promised, the business collapses. Third, your primary acquisition channel. How do most of your customers actually find you? Not how you wish they found you. How they actually do. This is load-bearing. If that channel disappears or stops working, new customer flow stops, and eventually, the business collapses. Fourth, your unit economics. Does the math actually work? Are you generating more value than you're spending to create and deliver it? This is load-bearing. If your unit economics are broken, you're building a beautiful structure on sand. Eventually, it sinks. Fifth, your differentiation. What makes you different from every other option in the market? Why do people choose you and not someone else? This is load-bearing. If you have no defensible differentiation, you're competing on price, which erodes margins, which breaks unit economics, and eventually the structure falls. These are the things that run your business. These are structural. And here's the test. If this broke down tomorrow, would your business still function? If the answer is no, or not sustainably, it's load-bearing. You need to protect it, Invest in it and make sure it's solid. Now let me give you things that are usually decorative. Your logo, your brand colors, your office space, your pitch deck design, your social media aesthetic, your company swag, your founder's personal brand, your PR coverage, your awards. These things matter. I'm not going to tell you that they don't. What they matter for is perception, for credibility, for attracting attention, and for making people feel good about working with you. But they're not holding up the business. You can change your logo tomorrow, and the business keeps working. You can move offices, and the business keeps working. You can stop posting on Instagram, and the business keeps working. These are decorative. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Sometimes decorative elements become load-bearing. If your personal brand is your primary acquisition channel, it's no longer decorative. It's load-bearing. If your Instagram presence is how 70% of your customers find you, it's not decorative anymore. It's load-bearing. If your office space is critical to your ability to attract and retain top talent, and top talent is critical to delivery, then office space becomes load-bearing. Context matters. The same element can be decorative in one business and load-bearing in another. The question is, do you know which is which in your business? Part 3. The danger of Decorative-First building. So what happens when you build Decorative-First? When you spend all your time and money on the things that look good instead of the things that hold weight? You get businesses that photograph well but don't function. You see this constantly. Beautiful branding, gorgeous website, active social media, impressive PR, great founder story, slick pitch deck. And behind all of that, a menu of problems. Broken delivery, terrible unit economics, no clear value proposition, confused positioning, and unstable acquisition costs. The decorative elements are perfect. The load-bearing elements are crumbling. Imagine a startup that raised millions in funding because their pitch was compelling. The founders had charisma, and the story of their product captured headlines. They hired a sleek design agency, built an impressive website, ran glossy campaigns, and their social media buzzed. Everyone talked about them. But underneath, they hadn't solved product-market fit. Customers churned faster than they signed up. The unit economics didn't work. Their delivery model couldn't scale. They were burning cash faster than they could generate revenue. All the logos, branding, and buzz, the decorative elements, looked impressive, but they couldn't support a business that didn't yet exist. Eventually, the house of cards collapsed. The lesson? Attention and presentation can only go so far if the underlying business isn't built to hold weight. Here's what this looks like in practice. You launch with a perfect brand identity. Logo, website, social presence, the works. You spend 3 months and significant cash on it, but you haven't validated your value proposition. You haven't tested your pricing. You haven't figured out your delivery model. So you go to market with a beautiful brand, selling something people don't actually want at a price that doesn't work, delivered in a way that doesn't scale. The decorative is perfect. The load-bearing doesn't exist. Or this: you spend all your time creating content, building your personal brand, going to networking events, or getting press coverage. And you wonder why you're not growing. It's because none of those things are load-bearing in your business. They're decorative. Your actual acquisition channel is referrals. Your actual growth driver is delivery quality. But you're spending zero time on those things because they're not visible. They're not sexy. They don't photograph well. Or this: you're obsessed with your Instagram aesthetic. Every image or reel is perfectly designed. The grid is cohesive. The colors are on brand. Meanwhile, your customer journey is confusing. Your onboarding is broken, and your delivery is inconsistent. You are polishing decorative while ignoring load-bearing. Here's why this happens. Decorative work is visible. It's shareable. It feels productive. You can show people. You can post about it. You can get feedback immediately. Load-bearing work is invisible. It's hard. It takes longer. You can't photograph it. Nobody celebrates it. So people naturally gravitate toward decorative work because it feels like progress. But decorative work doesn't build a business. It decorates a business. If there's no structure underneath, you're just building a facade. And here's the brutal truth. Eventually, the weight becomes too much for decorative elements to bear. You get more customers, but you can't deliver. You get more attention, but you can't convert. You get more revenue, but your unit economics are broken, so growth just accelerates your collapse. The decorative elements can't hold the weight because they were never designed to. Part 4. How to identify what's load-bearing in your business. So how do you actually figure out what's load-bearing versus decorative in your specific business? Here are the diagnostic questions. Question 1. If this disappeared tomorrow, would revenue stop? Not would it hurt, but would it stop? If yes, it's probably load-bearing. If no, it's probably decorative. Your Instagram account disappears tomorrow. Does revenue stop? For most businesses, no. Decorative. For some businesses, yes, because that's their primary acquisition channel. Load-bearing. Your delivery system breaks tomorrow. Does revenue stop? Yes, immediately. Load-bearing. Question 2. Where do your customers actually come from? Not where you want them to come from, where they actually come from. Track this. Look at your last 20 customers. How did they find you? That channel is load-bearing. Everything else is decorative until proven otherwise. Question 3. What do you spend the most time on? Now ask, is that thing load-bearing or decorative? If you're spending 80% of your time on decorative elements and 20% on load-bearing, your structure is going to fail. Question 4. What are you afraid to change? The things you're afraid to change are probably load-bearing. The things you change constantly are probably decorative. If you redesign your logo every year, it's decorative. If you've had the same sales process for 5 years because it works, it's load-bearing. Question 5. What do your best customers say they hired you for? Not what your marketing says, what they actually say. That's your core value proposition. That's load bearing. Everything else is supporting structure or decoration. Here's what usually happens when people do this exercise. They realize they're spending most of their energy on things that don't actually matter, and they're neglecting the things that do. They're perfecting their LinkedIn presence, decorative, while their sales process is broken, load bearing. They're redesigning their website, decorative, while their delivery model can't scale, load bearing. They're creating content, decorative, while their differentiation is unclear, load bearing. The fix isn't to stop doing decorative things, it's to get the ratio right. Load bearing first, then decorative. Structure first, then aesthetics. Function first, then form. Part 5. When decorative becomes load-bearing, and vice versa. Here's the final complexity. Things can shift. What starts as decorative can become load-bearing, and what starts as load-bearing can become decorative. Your personal brand might start as decorative, something that makes you feel good, builds credibility, opens doors. But if it becomes your primary acquisition channel, if 80% of your customers come from your personal brand, it's no longer decorative. It's load-bearing. Now you have to protect it, invest in it, maintain it. Because if it fails, your business fails. Or the opposite. Something that used to be load-bearing becomes decorative. Maybe you built your business on cold outreach. That was your primary acquisition channel, load-bearing. But over time, referrals took over. Now 90% of your customers come from referrals. Cold outreach is no longer load-bearing. It's supplementary. It's decorative. The key is to stay aware of what's actually holding up your business right now. Not what held it up 3 years ago. Right now. Because if you keep investing in something that used to be load-bearing but isn't anymore, you're wasting resources. And if you're ignoring something that's become load-bearing because you think it's still decorative, you're building on a shaky foundation. This requires regular auditing. Every 6 months, ask, what's actually load-bearing right now? Has anything shifted? Here's what I want you to do this week. Make 2 lists. List 1, what do you spend most of your time and money on? List 2, what's actually load-bearing in your business? Then, compare them. Are they the same? Or are you spending 80% of your resources on decorative elements? Ask yourself, where do my customers and clients actually come from? What's my core value proposition? Not what I market, but what people actually buy. If this element disappeared tomorrow, would revenue stop? What am I afraid to change? Those are probably load-bearing. What do I change constantly? Those are probably decorative. Many businesses are backwards. They're investing in decoration while neglecting structure. and then they wonder why growth is so hard, why the business feels fragile, why more effort doesn't create more results. It's because effort spent on decorative elements doesn't build structural capacity. You need both. A building needs structure and aesthetics. A business needs function and form. But you have to know which is which, and you have to build in the right order. Structure first, then decoration. Load-bearing first, then aesthetics. I'm Jason Hager, and this is Grayleaf Media, the podcast for leaders who believe profit and purpose don't have to be at odds. If you need help figuring out what's actually load-bearing in your business, that's what our brand therapy is for. We'll reverse engineer what's actually working, identify what's decorative theater, and build a strategy around what actually matters. Get the load-bearing versus decorative printable exercise. Go to grayleafmedia.com/is-this-structural. Links to both are in the description. Next week, the cost. What it actually takes to build something that lasts, why most people underestimate it, and how to know if you're willing to pay. Until then, keep building. And notice which bricks matter.